So, Charmed and Buffy the Vampire Slayer are getting a reboot. My only question is why? Why reboot it? There's no need to. Look, I understand some series, some storylines, you don't really have much of a choice but either A, reboot it, or B, do something along the line of prequels to it. Mainly because the story has essentially come to its conclusion. It started at a point, it finished at a point, whether it was a good ending or a bad ending, a happy ending, a not so happy ending. Some stories, you have no choice but to either reboot it or do a prequel. I get that. But there are other stories that don't need that. Like Ghostbusters 2016. Ghostbusters didn't need a reboot. It needed an additional storyline. The one that the fans have been waiting for years. A passing of the torch. And Charmed and Buffy can have similar stories. There's no need for them to be a reboot. The way that they've been made, you can easily make a new version of those shows and continue the story. Do it in the more modern day, 2019, whatever. Or put it more futuristic, something like that. It doesn't matter. But the way that they've been set up, for instance, let's go with Buffy. How does Buffy work? There is one Slayer. When the Slayer dies, a new Slayer is born. That is how the whole universe essentially works with that. It's oversimplifying it, but yes, pretty much it is. That's how it works. In the old Buffy, I get it, we've had like 2 movies plus a TV show, different actors every time. But they're all sort of their own little self-contained thing, and the show is the thing that a lot of people actually watched and remember. They may never even knew about the movies, and I can't remember which one spawned what, but that's neither here nor there. But in the show, Buffy dies, and a new Slayer is created afterwards, as well as other storylines where they're at odds with each other and other stuff, because, naturally they bring Buffy back and all that good stuff. So then there's winds up being 2 Slayers when there should only be 1, and so on and so forth. But it wouldn't be hard for them to go hunt down another Slayer. I mean, even doing these as a continuation, you don't have to go and get like the old stars or anything like that, the people who played, previous characters, to bring them in. Especially since Buffy killed off a large majority of them right there at the end of the series. There's not really many to pick from anyway, if you were to do that. But it wouldn't be too hard to set it up. Charles, I think that's what his name was, I can't really remember, it's been so long. The caretaker of the Slayer, the Watcher, the one who's supposed to take care of her, find her, train her, that sort of thing. If that actor's still around, and I'm sure he is, ask him to come back and do a couple of episodes. The first 2 episodes. Whether he does it or not, that's up to them, of course. But if they do, bring them back. And say, this is how we're going to set it up. You're training your replacement, essentially. Something happened. Buffy's no longer with us. She died in some, horrific whatever, trying to save the Earth for the, 3,000th time. Tried to save the world and everything. She finally met her match. And then said demon slithered off somewhere after defeating her to essentially regain their strength, because, maybe she almost practically crippled the guy or girl or whoever, the big bad's going to be. And he's having to recharge his batteries, essentially. Which means, during this time, he had been training essentially his replacement because he's getting maybe too old or something. He's done with this, and he's got to train his replacement. And the first 2 episodes are them, them essentially finding the new Slayer and handing the reins over to the new guy who's going to take over for, the 12, 15, 20-some episode season, whatever it happens to be. And within these 2 episodes, you're, one, not rebooting it, not making a straight-up reboot, making the new character also Buffy, and all this other stuff. You're continuing the story. You do some illustrations or something to sort of say what has happened since the previous thing in like the first minute or something. And, whatever you got to do that. And then they find said Slayer. And then he hands the reins over to Dude. Or something happens and he gives his life to allow them to escape in like the first 2 episodes. So then the new guy is now training the new Slayer. And then we have a new series going on from there. That honestly would probably make a lot more sense instead of just straight up rebooting and trying to redo what is already done in its own self-contained thing to bring in new fans. You could still bring in new fans while also catering to the older fans that way. And then you could bring in references, throughout the series. They're facing some evil or whatnot, and Dude opens a book, or woman, or whoever it is you get to play the new, watcher type person. And they sit there and they flip through, I remember so-and-so telling me how Buffy did this, or Faith did this, or, name one of the other previous Slayers did this. And flip through it, and just little subtle references. This way it's not in your face, but it's also, catering to the original fans. Because as much as we like nostalgia, and we like, having those moments, we also don't like them in our face every 5 seconds, like, say, a particular movie that bombed a few years back. And then, you go on from there. You will get your Slayer. She's training to go after the big bad that the previous Buffy could not do. Buffy couldn't finish them off. And then you've got yourself set up for, all these stories all the way across. Until you get to the season finale where they may meet up with Big Bad or something. Or if it's popular enough, you set it across a couple of seasons. Big Bad shows up, but it's so popular, it's off the chain, it's already set up for a second season. Something happens and Dude gets away and you still gotta go track him down or whatever else. And now Charmed. There's no reason to reboot Charm either. You can just continue that. Similar fashion, pretty much. You've got the Charmed ones, the Power of 3. That plays a huge part in that show. The witches. They got their powers, they came of age, powers manifested, blah blah blah, yada yada. And then all you need to do is worry about a little bit of backstory for them. Maybe maybe you bring in 3 people for the Power of 3, and, maybe the other 2 went off and did their own things, and you had Phoebe or somebody, or, whoever you can get, possibly, to come back for something, to do a little bit of, timey-wimey stuff to sort of set it up to how these new 3 girls are going to be the new Charmed ones. Where, one of them had like triplets or something shortly after the events of whatever happened at the end of Charmed. Which I really don't remember anyway. But, they went off and did their own thing. Somebody got pregnant or whatnot. They had triplets. Or something. Or all 3 of the girls all had a little girl, or whatever else. I mean, I know one of them did have a kid somewhere with, what's his name? The White Lighter. Can't remember his name. But anyway, and then they inherit the power of 3, the charmed stuff. And then you start your story up from there. You don't have to, rehash, the people. You don't need to give them the same names and say, this is, we're rebooting it. You can continue the storyline from there. They can go through and look through the Book of Shadows for something. And, you can find, a spell that Phoebe put into it or something. And they're just Phoebe put this spell in here for something. I'm going to try it out. And then we can have a episode where things go awry for whatever reason, blah, blah, this, that, and the other. Wouldn't be too hard to just continue the story. I don't get why they feel the need to reboot. But anyway, I'll just pass the question off to you. What are your feelings on all these reboots? Do you think they're necessary, or do you think they should maybe focus on continuing the storyline kind of like maybe how I presented it here? Should they just stop the idea of reboots and just make a brand new series and continue it, later down the line? Maybe a little bit of canon comes into play from the previous stuff, but not just pretty much redoing the same thing over and over again. Then again, maybe, I don't know. Anyway, I'll just pass the question off to you. What do you think? You like the idea of reboots? Did you ever see the original ones, these particular shows? Were you ever a fan? Did you ever watch them, or do you just remember them in passing? Let me know down in the comments below, and of course, are you going to watch the reboots when they come out? I know I'm going to at least check it out, just because I have to. It's like Star Trek Discovery. Didn't really like the idea of what they were doing with it, but I still checked it out long enough to know it's crap. But anyway, let me know down in the comments below. Until then, I'll talk to you later. See ya.
Hey, thanks for watching. Don't forget to leave a comment, smash that like button, and always subscribe for more. And of course, there are other videos floating around somewhere on the screen, so click one of those and see if you can find something that suits your fancy. Till then, I'll see you later. Bye.